Hi everyone, my name is Alexander Hagberg and I'm a part of the development team at Xray. And in today's workshop we're gonna present the new features in the all-new X4 24 touring car, which I have here in front of me. So I think people will be positively surprised about how much is actually new in the new X4. Probably more new features than we have seen in the past in the previous models, and I'm gonna try and explain most of them today and try to go in a bit of detail as well. So let's start with the suspension, which we have both upper and lower arm, which is new, redesigned to accommodate for a all-new shock position. You can see here the shocks are now mounted in the middle of the suspension arms instead of at the front or at the back of the suspension arms. And having the shocks in this position not only drastically lowers the CG by 4.5 millimeters, but it also centralizes the weight in the car. So you have the weight lower and more towards the middle of the car, which both those things, they do very good things for the handling of the car. Basically the car stays flatter, becomes easier to drive, uses less tire, basically makes everything better in the car. And of course the visual differences compared to the 23 or the original X4, they're very big. I mean, it really looks like a different car. So the upper arm has been given a new shape so that you can easier access the shocks to set the preload of the spring. The shocks and springs are the same as they were on the 23 car, but the position of the shock and where it sits on the car actually makes it look like it's smaller or shorter, but it's actually the same shock. And another thing which has been updated is the position of the anti-roll bar. So the anti-roll bar now mounts underneath the arm instead of above, so the CG has been lowered even further with the anti-roll bar sitting right here. It mounts very low onto the bulkheads, which for that reason we have new bulkheads as well to accommodate for the new suspension component. Furthermore, the upper arms now come in the soft version in the graphite kit of the car. The car comes in two different kit versions, just like in the past, and the graphite kit has been given the soft upper arms as standard in the kit to give you more grip on asphalt surfaces. If we move on to other new things in the car, which some of them I'm really excited about. We have a new ECS clip system drive shaft, which has been encapsulated with a casing here. And this casing means that there's no more set screws in the ECSs. Set screws are gone, you don't have to apply any tread lock anymore, and the pins in the couplings are held in by a sleeve. So the whole assembly is more reliable, more durable, easier to work on, and not only does it improve handling, but it's just easier to maintain and easier to work on. And this is a really nice upgrade in the 24 car, which I'm really happy to see as well. And there's many new things which I'm going to try and explain step by step, basically in terms of importance. So the motor mount has been given an additional flex position at the very front. So instead of just having one screw mounted in front of the spur gear, we now have the option to mount two screws in front of the spur gear. So in total, 5 flex points, 5 screw hole positions, which this has been given to the motor mount mainly for CRC black carpet, which is a high grip carpet that is used mainly in the US. And this flex point is really useful for racing on that kind of surface, and it really improves the car on that kind of grip. There's more news in the X4 24. For example, the Ackerman has been altered with the steering link now being mounted further out, further away from the center line of the car to make the steering links longer. And with the longer steering links, you have more precise steering feel, which gives you more consistent lap times. In the back of the car, the ARS links, they've been moved forward, which gives more rotation, and they've also been lowered, so they mount lower onto the bulkhead but also lower onto the uprights, the steering block. So again, focus on lowering CG has been dominant in the design of the X424. One of the most significant new features in the X424 is the new shock holders. So the new shock holders are made in aluminum, and what I really like about them is that you can change the shock angle with shims, so you can alter the shock angle and fine-tune the shock angle to find the perfect setup with the use of shims in front and rear. And we really play a lot with the shock positions. For that reason, we can now change it in smaller steps, which is really useful for us, but also for drivers on a hobby level. The other very significant feature with the new shock holders is the fact that you can mount it in 3 different ways. So not only can you mount it directly to the bulkhead, which there's a screw going into the bulkhead here from the side. You can mount it from the bottom, so you can mount a screw here, or you can mount both of them together. So you have 3 flex options, which each of them have their own advantages and disadvantages, and gives you a very wide setup window to be able to tune the car for different track conditions and different grip levels. So for example, here the car is set up with it being fixated in 2 spots, but you can easily remove one of these screws to completely alter the handling of the car. And this is a really powerful setup option in the new X424. If you look at the back of the car, the rear shock holder has the possibility to be made active. So simply by removing a screw which holds the shock holder together here, you make the shock holder active, which means that when you push the suspension up, you give the shock holder a chance to move. I'm going to show you. So for example here, normal, linear damping, and you can see the active damping working right here. So as I just demonstrated, making the rear shock tower active is very easy by just removing a single screw, and can easily be done in the pit lane or in your pit, obviously. And I'm going to demonstrate the difference, how the suspension works when it's active versus fixed. So you have normal linear damping going down, but when the shock tower is active, you can push the shock down like this. So for example, driving over a bump or a curb or something, it gives the shock a possibility to move and literally is active. And this is a really nice tuning option which we utilize for different conditions. For example, higher grip surfaces where we need to improve the rotation of the car and improve the off-power steering. We play with the active rear suspension. And if we move on to the very back of the car, we have a new graphite body post holder. And this graphite body post holder is now a one-piece item, which on the previous car it was split in 2 and mounted on the chassis. Now it's mounted to the rear bulkhead, and it can be set in 8 steps. For example, if you use the horizontal rear body posts, which they mount onto here, you have 8 heights or 8 options of heights that you can set the rear body post holding tower in, which gives you a really wide range of fine-tuning for the body shell height. And it's also been designed to accommodate for VTA body shells, which they require a taller body post height. And thus we have 2 different mounting positions on the tower onto the bulkhead. If we move on to other features down the list, we have the chassis shape. So the chassis has been redesigned to accommodate for the new suspension, the new shock position. Basically everything that's new has given us the opportunity to make the chassis narrower, not only here but also on the sides. On the widest part we were able to move the battery holder further to the inside, which means that less chassis area is going to touch the ground and scrub speed in corners. So less chassis drag has also been significantly narrowed here in the very back. You can see this part here is a lot narrower than the 23 car. Less chassis drag means more cornering speed and a more consistent handling. The new ECS system, which we have in the X424, is very easy to use, very easy to maintain the drive shaft, and I'm quickly going to show you how you take the drive shaft apart. Because as I mentioned earlier, there's no set screws in the ECS assembly anymore. Everything's held in place by a sleeve, and I'm going to take this out. I'm going to show you. We have the pins right here and a clip which holds this sleeve. You simply put this case onto the drive shaft and it holds everything in place. And you don't need any thread lock on set screws or anything like that. It just comes apart like this. You push the pins out, you put grease in there, and it's good to go. It's very easy to use, very convenient, and most of all, very reliable. So a lot of customers, they take a first look at the X4 24 and may think that the car is more difficult to work on than the previous car. And to be honest, that's just a perception. And as soon as you start working on the car, you start building it and start changing things in the setup, you'll soon realize that it's as easy to work on as the previous X4 and T4 platforms. And it's just a thing of habit, you'll get used to it. For example, that's why we changed the shape of the upper arms to be able to access the shocks. It looks very different, but it's not difficult to work on. And I think that's an Xray trademark that continues with the X4 24.